It is a beautiful Sunday night. Hope you had a great weekend. We are going to be getting in an updated Dynasty startup draft now. We had news this morning. Brandon Ayuk supposedly requested a trade, and then later on in the day, it was apparently just some, I don't want to say troll Twitter account, but just some Twitter account that didn't really have any credibility going through and breaking the news, and it turns out it wasn't really true. Now, with that being said, while yeah, it was a bogus Twitter account coming out claiming that Brandon Ayuk will be traded. You did have the report yesterday, which I believe was saying that Ayuk unfollowed all the Niners off social media, which of course isn't the end of the world, but it does go to say that he's not happy with the Niners, and it makes sense given the fact that he's pretty much just wanting a new contract, right? I mean, we see this time and time again from these wide receivers that are going into their contract year. These are going to be guys that want to get paid, and Ayuk has deserved to get paid. The Niners are going to be in a tough spot just given the amount of weapons that they have and the fact that they are going to soon have to start paying Brock Purdy as an actual starting quarterback. So even though it looks like the report was fake, it's not to say that the Niners are completely out of the woods with the Ayuk situation. I'm sure he's not happy. I'm sure that he wants a new deal, and I'm sure that's going to be something we have to continue to monitor through the course of the offseason. But nonetheless, we'll talk about Ayuk a little bit more when we get these Niners off the board, but we are going to be in here at pick 10. I thought there was a chance that we were looking at the receivers with Lamb, Jefferson. They go 6 and 7, but now I guess if we wanted a wide receiver, we'd only go with Jamar. So let's see what happens here. St. Brown goes before Jamar Chase in this. That is nuts. Jamar Chase goes. So I am going to be the happiest guy in the world. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Joe Burrow here. Let me pull up the rankings that we have on the site because, I mean, if you look at this, you will see that we are significantly higher on Joe Burrow than where he goes in this draft. I'll pull up my own rankings on the site and we can look at the expert rankings averages as well. If you look at the expert averages, you have Joe Burrow as the 6th player. You have Burrow ahead of Burrow as the 6th quarterback, the 8th player. You have Jefferson and Lamb ahead of him. But that's in the community rankings. I'm sorry, in the expert rankings, he's QB 6, but 6 overall. If you go ahead and add in my rankings, I actually may be a little bit more aggressive than this. I have Burrow at 4. Just because with Burrow, we've seen the large sample. We've seen the dominance. I understand he was injured this past season, but still, you're attached to young talents like Jamar Chase going into the future. I think the Burrow should be healthy. I am freaking pumped to get Burrow at pick 10. And this is going to be a 3rd round reversal as well. It seems like the majority of y'all prefer us doing 3rd round reversals. So that's what we're sticking with at the moment. And we're going to get Bijan Robinson here at the 203 as well. Earlier in the offseason, I did have Jahmyr Gibbs in a full PPR format as my running back 1 in Dynasty. But now that you have Cousins over in Atlanta, now that you have no Arthur Smith, I feel fine to say, hook 'em horns. Let's go ahead. Let's get our guy Bijan at the 203. And I am freaking pumped for this draft. And yes, because the 3rd round reversal, we are going to be able to pick again in only about 8 selections, which is exciting. But Brock, happy to see you, my friend. We got Scott out here. Scott always out here. Happy to see you. Little Desk says, let's get it. We got Jindy's longtime member of the flock. And yes, so with Ayuk, I don't want to say he is for sure a Niner. Like I said, the report that came out earlier today looks to be complete bogus, and you don't really have to pay any attention to it. Now, with that being said, I still think that Ayuk wants to get paid. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a situation where there's smoke, there's fire, right? It's probably just tactics, Ayuk going out there and unfollowing all the Niners off social media. I mean, making some side remarks, hearing these fake rumors that he's requesting a trade. Typically, the squeaky wheel is going to get some grease. Now, of course, we don't necessarily know if that's going to be in the form of him getting traded, where we don't know if that's going to be in the form of, I don't know, maybe just him getting that contract extension. But regardless, I think that we are going to have Ayuk news by the time we get to the season. Hopefully, it's him just getting a contract extension. At least that's what you'd want if you are a Brandon Ayuk owner. But, I mean, if we're looking at the Niners right now, what you can actually do on flockfantasy.com, if you want to look at like a team, right? You can go ahead. You can literally just select a team. So let's sort by the expert rankings. So you currently have... Oh, is OBS messing up on me? Can y'all see my updated version? Or, oh, I have 2 flock windows open. That's why. But, okay. Yeah, so here you can now see what we're doing. We're going to add the Niners, and you can go ahead and you can see what you have with the expert rankings. So, Purdy, QB 12, CMC, RB4, Ayuk's wide receiver 12, Debo's wide receiver 22. You could possibly make an argument that Debo could be a decent price for a contending team if you were to see him, if you were to see Ayuk dealt. So if we were to take someone, quarterback, it'd either be Dak, Purdy, or Tua. Or it could be May even. Running back, nobody over the quarterbacks. Wide receiver would be Olave. Tight end, nobody there. I think we're going to go ahead and... Can I change this real quick? I'm sorry. I think we're going to take Purdy at the 303. Now, y'all know I was a big Trey Lance guy. I honestly don't even feel bad about it because our quarterback valuation process, we look at the situation that that player is stepping into, the weapons that they have around him, the rushing upside that they have. And with Purdy, doesn't really have the rushing upside, but based off the play over the past 2 years, he has all the job security in the world. As of today, he is surrounded with some of the best weapons in the NFL. I mean, you have Debo, you have Kittle, you have CMC, you have Ayuk. It's going to be a little bit tougher when they do eventually have to pay him, but you can maybe make the argument that once they do pay him, if the defense gets a little bit worse, then maybe they actually have to go out and air it out just a bit more. I mean, obviously, this is not everything, but to go through and just look at the counting stats of what we have seen with Brock Purdy through the first 2 years of his NFL career. This is a quarterback that's 17-4 as a starter. It's a quarterback that this past year was #1 in the NFL in touchdown rate. 7.2% touchdown rate over the past 2 seasons. He was #1 in the NFL in adjusted yards per pass attempt at 9.9. 9.5 throughout his entire year. 267 passing yards per game. So you have the job security, great coaching staff, weapons. I like Lance because of that situation, but obviously Lance is nothing. Purdy is the guy, so I think you have to go through. I think you have to get excited about him. Now, you have May, Tua, Dak all going here. I actually really like all the values of these quarterbacks in this range, and I'm freaking pumped about how we've started this draft off. But let me see on the site where Purdy is in these rankings. So a big thing that you can do on the site as well, and I think we're maybe the only people who have this, but you can go through and you can look at the community rankings, completely free on flockfantasy.com if you ever want to pull up the community rankings. The expert rankings will be up behind a paywall, but yeah, the community rankings are always and will always be free. But moving this down, you can just see where people are ranked in the community rankings. So you have Purdy down at 38. However, that's just how the users of the site, they go there often, value these guys. Instead, if you look at the expert rankings, which is a combination of my rankings, the guys at the Fantasy Stock Exchange, the guys at Dynasty Land, the guys at Dynasty Domain, here you can see that Brock Purdy instead's QB 12 up there at 25 overall. So he should be going at the very end of round 2 of Dynasty startups. And yeah, I'm completely fine with that price point. He is going back-to-back with the 104. So, I mean, maybe you can make the argument that currently Drake May does have a little bit more value. And Drake May did go back-to-back in this draft too. But Jeff says, chat, what are the thoughts on JSN, Anthony Richardson in the 106 for Mahomes and the 203? We can go ahead and pull this up in the trade calculator. My friend, I'm going to operate under the assumption that this is a super flex format when we look at this. But assuming that this is a super flex, we'll use the expert trade values. We're going to go ahead. We receive Mahomes. And early seconds, they receive Anthony Richardson, the 106, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So if you put this in the trade calculator, you're going to be able to see, one, where it is. The trade calculator is saying the Mahomes side's winning. I 100% agree. I'd rather have the Mahomes side. And also, you can just scroll down, and with the trade finder, you can see all trades that have been made on Sleeper. We set the league settings here to 2 quarterback formats. You're going to be looking at Superflex leagues, and you can see other trades that involve Anthony Richardson for Mahomes. So to get a sense of this. So you see someone traded Anthony Richardson and Trevor Lawrence for Patrick Mahomes. See someone traded Anthony Richardson, Kyle Pitts, and a first-round pick this year for Mahomes, Cup, and a third. See someone traded Anthony Richardson, Drake London for Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, if we were looking at those deals, I would encourage people to go out and see if they can get Mahomes at that kind of value. In my mind, I don't say it's a no-brainer, but it's a pretty compelling price point. Now, let's go ahead and move this around. Best running backs available: Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley, Rachaad White, James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco. Wide receivers: Devonta Smith, DJ Moore. DJ Moore goes. It's Devonta Smith, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, T. Higgins, JSN, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers. Tight end, yeah, TJ Hawkinson. Looking at the rookies currently, Brock Bowers is the best guy. I probably would rather take Devonta Smith here. I mean, with Smith, doesn't look to be an elite level wide receiver one, but does look to be someone that you can compete with in the short term. And he's young enough to have the longevity where we're not worried about his value falling off a cliff anytime soon. So we'll go ahead. We'll take him here at the end of the 4th. Quarterback, I know who our favorite guy would be on that list. Running back, I know who would be looking at. Tank Dell and Kenneth Walker go right after our Devonta Smith selection. Looking at the site, you can see where Smith is in the expert rankings in comparison to these guys. Keep in mind, I will be putting a little bit of a discount on Dell, given the addition of Stephon Diggs. Even if Diggs is gone after this year, or potentially gone after this year, I think it does kind of tell you what the Houston Texans think of him. And yeah, Devonta Smith currently is wide receiver 14 if you are looking at the expert rankings. Okay, so Bowers goes. I think we're going to be between Nico Collins and we are honestly, I know y'all are going to hate to see it. I am going to reach. I'm going to stretch way down on this draft board. And we are going to go ahead and take J.J. McCarthy. With McCarthy, like I said, and I'll always say, I am not going to pretend like I am some expert quarterback guru scout, and I know exactly which one of these quarterbacks are going to hit versus bust coming out of college. The NFL teams that actually get to go to the practices with these guys, that actually get to sit down and talk to these guys, they get it wrong a ton. So we look at rushing upside, situation they're stepping into, and projected NFL draft capital. At this point, NFL draft capital once it already happens, because then it gives us an idea of job security. So, I mean, if I'm looking at McCarthy right now, Vegas sportsbooks have him more likely than not, whether you agree with it or not. The betting odds are he's a top 5 NFL pick, and he's a guaranteed top 10 NFL pick. So if that's the case, and his most likely landing spot, according to Vegas sportsbooks, right now is the Minnesota Vikings. I think I'm going to be willing to take him in the range of like Nico, Pickens, Higgins, Metcalf. But Caliber coming out says 12-team Superflex start 10, London the 102 or Lamb and the 204. So I'll put this in the trade calculator. I kind of already know what side we want to go with here. But so, I mean, obviously people are freaking pumped regarding Drake London at this moment. London has moved up to be a top 10 wide receiver in the expert rankings. Looking at that, he is the wide receiver 9, 29 overall in the expert rankings. We're going to be going with, the seconds on the other side. So we're going to be looking at the 104. here. The 104 should end up being like Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, someone in that range. And we're going to be comparing it to CeeDee Lamb and a mid-second. So CeeDee Lamb right now in the expert rankings is wide receiver 2, 9 overall. Says it's a fair deal. Says that you'd probably rather have the Lamb side. To be honest with you, I think I would probably rather have the Lamb side, but I know the majority of the people in the chat would rather have the London side. I think the London side probably is a little more value at the moment, but I mean, we've already seen Lamb be the elite level wide receiver, but trade calculator says it's a fair trade. I do think it comes down to your personal preference. Let me ask everybody in the chat real quick. Can everybody please spam the chat? Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Lamb in the second or London in the 104? Oh, no, it's the 102. Oh, never mind. If it's the 102, this is going to change things, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead. Pull this up. Yeah, 102 is Marvin. So, yeah, 102, that makes it the Drake London and 102 side. Yeah, so I think you have to go with London and the 102. I mean, I honestly think that you could potentially even flip London for a profit if you decided to do that. But based off value and value alone, I think you have to. Yeah. And definitely, if you were using the trade calculator, do not make the mistake I did. Please put in the right things. I'm sorry, my friend. But let's move this over to Josh Jacobs, 606. So best quarterbacks available are Young, Cousins, Baker, Levis, Stafford. Running backs, you have Cook, Pacheco, Spears, Javonte, Swift, Najee, Kamara. Receiver, you have JSN, Diggs, Debo, Adams, Reed, Kupp, Evans. Tight end, you have Hawkinson, Kelsey, Kittle, and Njoku Ferguson. And then for the rookies, you have Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Michael Penix, and Ladd. And then the running backs as well. Okay, so Jaden Reed off the board. Michael Penix goes. Honestly, I think it's pretty aggressive for Penix, just considering where he's projected to go currently in the NFL draft. There are two guys that I'm looking at. I don't want to tell y'all who it is just because there's a good shot we get one of them on the way back around at the 703. So we can possibly come away with the turn here with both guys that we want. But we'll see. JSN goes. So we're going to get one of our guys here. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take TJ Hawkinson. I mean, Hawkinson, absolutely no-brainer pick in my mind. I mean, based off the track record that we've had, he has the large sample of success. He's incredibly young as well. There's someone that's 26 years old, tight end position. You have a significant runway on that production. The main concern that you're going to have with Hawkinson, of course, is one, I guess, the situation that currently projects to be there in Minnesota, and two, the injuries he's coming off of. If Cousins was the quarterback and he was fully healthy, I'd be advocating for Hawkinson around where McBride went in this draft. I think Hawkinson would be tight end 2 in Dynasty. But based off the bad situation and based off the injury, obviously you would need to get him at a discount. And here, getting him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, getting him as tight end 7, I think is a perfectly fine discount. A.D. Mitchell, Bryce Young, both go 6'11", 6'12". I would way rather have Bryce Young over Michael Penix, Deshaun Watson, and Justin Fields. Fields looks like he was an auto pick, so I don't want to be talking about that too much, but just to make sure if anybody's walking in right now. Timothy says, is there a world where Wicks surpasses Reed? Probably not. I mean, Reed had more pedigree coming in, and he was a better rookie. So, honestly, this next pick going to be very easy for me as well. We're going to go ahead. We will take James Cook at the 703. I have a video coming out soon regarding some of these running backs, such as James Cook, Rachaad White, Kenneth Walker. In that it looks like they're a lot safer than what we've seen in years past, just given how bad this draft class should be at running back in particular. So 703 James Cook. I'm actually very excited about, even though y'all know in years past and even early this offseason before the free agency period, we're always screaming, avoid running backs. You don't want to be buying these guys. You don't want to be buying them. You don't want to be buying them. But it's one of the very rare instances that I think if you can get like James Cook round 7, I'm fine with it. Going over to flockfantasy.com to see where he is in the rankings. We can look at the community rankings first. Cook is running back 11. The expert rankings, he's running back 13. Regardless, I'm fine with that price point. I mean, if we're going to go through and look at where he goes in this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We get him at RB 13. Yeah, I mean, honestly, James Cook and TJ Hawkinson, when we were approaching the 6'10", those were the two guys that I was looking at. Those were the two players I wanted. Baker off the board at 707. Let me pull something up with Baker real quick. So I know it was a $100 million deal. I'm trying to figure out what the guaranteed was. So the guarantee with Baker is $40 million. He's guaranteed to be the starting quarterback this year, very likely to be the starting quarterback in 2025. And unless he excels, you assume in 2026, the Bucs move on and they save $30 million and go to a different QB. So it looks like the way it's structured is he's guaranteed to be a starting quarterback over the next 2 seasons. Or I don't want to say guaranteed for the next 2 years, guaranteed this year and likely for the next 2. Okay. We have some more tight ends going off. We have both Kittle as well as Kelsey at the beginning of the 8th. So we're getting more so to these contending pieces. I mean, a lot of the rookies are already gone. Even Franklin's gone. So if you're looking at the rookies now, it's pretty much like the rookie RBs. Trent says, what extra would you look to tear down from Josh Allen? Examples would be to do something like Love or Kyler. That's a move I'm not wanting to make. I would need a significant piece. If I'm going from like Josh Allen to, it's almost the exact opposite of a move that I would make. I would way rather tear down at wide receiver. Like, I'd way rather go from Lamb to Olave and pick something up versus going from Allen to Love and picking something up. Justin says, what rookie pick is Higgins worth? I mean, it's completely free on the site for y'all to pull this up. Just to give you an idea, if you ever have a question like this, just go to flockfantasy.com. It's free. If you want to look at the expert rankings, obviously behind the paywall, as we already said. But since we have the rookie picks already loaded up here, you can look at both one quarterback and super flex. And if you're looking at super flex rookie picks, T. Higgins is currently back-to-back in the community rankings with the 108. And that 108, if you look at the tiers, depends on where McCarthy goes, but it's either McCarthy, Brian Thomas, Rome, Bowers, someone in that range. Bo Nix off the board, 807. I would rather pay this price on Bo Nix, 807, than Michael Penix, 608, if I had to pick one between the two. Okay, quarterback. Nobody exciting. Yes, Higgins' value would go up if he got traded to the Bills. One of the very few landing spots that his value would go up with. If you have Higgins, what your hope is, if you have Higgins, you're hoping that he stays with the Bengals. But obviously the Bills would be a little bit of a different story. Now we're going to go Trey Benson here at the 810. I would have loved to get Jonathan Brooks making it here instead, but nonetheless, once you have like Zamir White, Tajee Spears, Alvin Kamara going off the board, I understand that these rookie running backs are probably very bad, and this is probably the worst running back draft class that we've seen since like 2014. At least that's how it's looking right now. But of course, we don't know how it's going to turn out. But what we do know is I did the historical research, and I've showed that this is the cheapest a rookie running back class has really ever been since you can track it, since 2014, over the past decade. It's by far and away the cheapest running back rookie class has ever been. So it's probably bad, but with how low these prices are, I'm willing to pay the price and find out. If we were to take a rookie, it'd be Keon Coleman. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Kupp over Keon. Maybe it's because the clip of Kupp and Puka going out there working together getting me a little bit too excited. But looks like he's still going to be there. Looks like he's still going to be putting in work, not retiring. And if that'll be the case, we'll take him at the 903. We'll figure it out. Okay. So, yeah, right now, I actually really like where this team stands. A little bit of a weird construction. Quarterback, we have Burrow, Purdy, McCarthy. Running back, we have Bijan, James Cook, Trey Benson. Wide receiver, we have Devonta Smith, Cooper Kupp. And tight end, we have Hawkinson. So, I think this is a good example of a team that we have flexibility to either contend right now or build for the long term. With this kind of structure, I would go into the season with the plans to be a contender, and if things went sideways, say Joe Burrow went down with another injury and it looked like we weren't going to be able to compete, then at that point, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to for sure sell Cooper Kupp for whatever I can get, sell James Cook, Devonta Smith, TJ Hawkinson. I'll throw them on the trade block. If I got nice offers for them, they'd be gone as well. If not, I mean, we can hold them. And then obviously, if this is a team that's ready to contend, if we hit the ground running and it looks like Kupp bounces back, Burrow's fully healthy, and McCarthy does get that top 5 draft capital, he potentially lands in Minnesota, then it's wheels up. I think this team has a real shot to compete. Okay. Let's move this over. But Jeff says, so T in the 105 over Jalen Hurts. I would rather have Jalen Hurts in a super flex over T in the 105. Justin says, how different was it swimming in the ocean for the Ironman versus training in the pool? I'm also training. You inspired? Hell yes, my guy. If you're doing an Ironman, that is really cool. We got one of the Ironman hats right here. But the ocean that I swam in for IM Texas 70.3 wasn't that bad. I mean, the waves weren't bad. I'd imagine on a different day where it's choppier, then it would have been a lot more difficult. But it wasn't that different than swimming in the pool. The only difference was it was like disgusting salt water. And we ended up like drinking a bunch of it. But we trained a bit swimming in the ocean in Florida. And that water's not as gross, and I don't remember it being as bad. But what was a little bit different is just because you're out there for so long and you're in the salt water, and I was getting a lot of salt water in my mouth and swallowing it. I was like really thirsty, like 30 minutes into the swim, 40 minutes into the swim. I was like, I need to get some water. Whereas usually, like if you're in a pool, right, you can stand on the side, you can get some. But yeah, if you're in the middle of the ocean, there's nothing you can do to get water. Christian Kirk off the board, 1007. Blake Corum. Blake's just so damn old. Let's see. Ridley goes. I mean, I like the Ridley pick given his contract. If this is a real draft, I may take a quarterback here thinking that we can flip one during the season for a profit. Instead, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Evan Ingram. Ingram definitely more of a contending piece, very similar to we just took with Cooper Kupp. But Hawkinson may end up being a little more of a long-term tight end, given the short-term quarterback play that you're going to have in Minnesota. Plus the fact, if you are looking at Hawkinson, he's coming off a significant injury. So getting Evan Ingram to cover the production, I think Ingram should be more productive than anybody else on the board. And it's not like he's super, super old, right? I mean, the tight end drafted in 2017, but he was really young coming out of Ole Miss. And I do have a soft spot for all the tight ends that were drafted in 2017. I thought, I mean, it was a horrible call. What we should have done is we should have just 100% only bought the hype with the running back draft class. In 2017, I bought the hype with the running back draft class and the tight end class. Let's go ahead and let's figure out what we're doing here real quick. Running back, we have Eckler, Robinson, Henry, Charbonnet. Wide receiver, Hollywood, Judy. I'm probably going to go Hollywood here. What are the rookies? Rookies, Roman Wilson, Braylon Allen, Jatavion Sanders. Yeah, we're going to go Hollywood Brown. I mean, we were saying to sell Hollywood and a second to try to get to a first once he signed with KC. But with the Rice news and with the fact that now he's a lot cheaper than he was after free agency, I'm fine paying this price. But yeah, back in 2017, that was the draft class where at tight end, you had David Njoku. And oh my gosh, I was sold that David Njoku was going to be a Hall of Fame player. You had OJ Howard. I was sold that OJ Howard is going to be pretty damn good as well. You have Evan Ingram. I was so excited about that draft class. Obviously, running backs where all the league winners came from. We were excited about running back too, but we definitely wasted a few rookie picks on David Njoku and OJ Howard when we shouldn't have. But Caliber says, I think there's a good chance Kupp outperforms Puka on a per game basis, fully healthy. This is something that I would never be able to say on a video, my friend, because I would just get ripped to shreds. Justin says, I saw your vlog, but have you trained with the Wave? Also planning on getting an Iron Man tattoo after it. I always thought I would never get a tattoo, but I think after Iron Man Nice, I may end up getting one. I think I may get like a small one on my thigh. I think everybody else gets it on their calf, but I don't know if I'd want it on the calf. But I'm not too worried about training with the Waves. In Austin, we have like the largest natural like pool in the United States called Barton Springs. I swim there a lot too. If you were like looking at the vlogs that we made, you maybe have seen Barton Springs. I think if you just look at like one titled like Beautiful Swim or something along those lines, you can see where we swim like our outdoor swims. But if you're like doing an Iron, keep in mind, I mean, I'm not the person to ask. I don't know. I could be wrong. But if you're like training for an Ironman where you will be swimming in the ocean, I don't necessarily think that you need to be training with waves, but I do think that you should probably get in some open water swims. Because one thing I was bad about whenever we were going through and swimming in the course, like they have the massive like buoys where you like kind of see the outline where you should be swimming, but I'm used to just keeping my head down and swimming. So I'd like swim off course and I'll look up and go crap and then have to swim back on. So like I would like swim in the open water and like practice sightseeing a bit. Jack says, played against Njoku in high school. I was sold on him. My man. If you went up against David Njoku in high school, RIP. RIP. I would have, I don't know. I would have pretended to roll an ankle in practice that Wednesday. There's a 0% chance you would have caught me at that game. Jinder says, Hollywood and Ridley or Dell and a super flex, best ball, triple flex. If it was a non-best ball league, it would be Dell by a country mile. With it being a best ball format, obviously it's a little more compelling for you to go through and for you to take the 2 starters versus the 1. I think you probably still take Dell though. Okay. Smooth this. Dotson, Sanders, both off the board. Russ goes. I may end up taking a quarterback here. If it comes down to like Jerry Jeudy or, yeah, and Jerry Judy's even gone. I'm sorry. I think we're going to go ahead. I think we'll take a QB. I think we're going to go Daniel Jones on the off chance that the Giants actually believe in him and they get him Rome. They get him Joe Alt. They get him Bowers. They get him something to help, and he turns out to be a little bit better than what he's been over the past 2 years, because over the past 2 years, he's been horrendous. But Let me show you all the team. I actually love this team, to be honest with you. Usually, feel free to roast me. This one, I'll be fighting back if you try roasting us on it. Quarterback, Burrow, Purdy, McCarthy, Daniel Jones. Love where we stand. Running back, Bijan, James Cook, Trey Benson. Love it. Tight end, Hawkinson, Ingram. Really happy with it. Wide receiver, not great. It is what it is. Devonta Smith, Cooper Kupp, Hollywood Brown. Hopefully we can just survive, but I think that's it for this. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with me. I really hope that we were able to help you out a little bit. The Ayuk news, not necessarily something you have to be too concerned with. Like I said, though, it will be something to continue to monitor throughout the entire offseason. But today, it was a false report. And that's all I got for you. Really hope you had a great weekend. Really hope that we get to see you out with the video tomorrow.